So I want to take just a moment to walk you through Blackboard a bit and then also to show you the course outline and what that looks like. When you log into the class, this is what it will look like for you. So there's a Start Here menu right up front, has the course syllabus available for you, and also tells you how do you get complimentary access to the New York Times and Wall Street Journal. Highly recommend you do that as soon as possible. Go ahead, get into that, make sure you have access to the news, and then you should be reading it daily. That's the important part about being an informed employee. These are not the only resources you should be reading, but they're solid resources that will provide you lots of business news, and that's where you should be focusing your time for this class is on business news from reputable sources. In terms of the next item is the course guide. And the course guide is a direct link. I didn't embed it in any other menu because I wanted you to be able to access it quickly. What happens is this is a live link. So anytime I change anything, you'll be able to have those changes in real time. So when I change over to that, you'll see it'll open up as a Word document for you. When you click that link, it'll create a new tab for you. And you can see week by week what we'll be covering. So just like I talked about in the introduction video, each week up until the midterm, we are digging into a different topic. So for example, we'll talk about like strategic competitiveness and really what is strategy and that sort of thing. And then we'll get into the external environment, internal environment, what strategy looks like generally performing a SWOT assessment, and then thinking about like competitive rivalry within an industry. And then you can see what assignments are due each week. So what you'll see is up until the midterm, it really focuses on the first couple of weeks, like getting into the course and getting to know you and starting to get familiar with the material, making sure everybody's on board. Then we have one discussion post through Packback a week up until the midterm. And that is, I'll post an example in week one of what that looks like, but explicit instructions are available each week on how to do that. And those wait to open until we have the class roster like all situated. What I will do is actually assign you to a small group so that you have like maybe, I don't know, no more than like 8 or 9 folks in a group so that your discussions stay manageable. So you'll be working sort of in that mini class format for your Packback post. But you'll respond like the way that Packback works, you can go ahead and take a look at it. I would encourage you go ahead and get logged in because we do have the introduction to get you familiar with it in like the first full week of class starting on the 26th. And then you start the discussion boards the next week. But I need you to go ahead and get in, get registered. I'll assign you to a small group and make sure that you're in the correct one, and then you can go ahead and start posting as soon as those assignments open. As I mentioned, for the number one assignment, for the first one, I will post an example so you can see the types of like ways you might approach that assignment. After that, those are up to you. The midterm will be short answer. Oftentimes I use a case. You have to use your webcam and Respondus. Everything is really clearly laid out in the exam on how to do that, so not a problem. I'll have you do a practice run the week before to make sure that you can log in and get those things up and running so that if you have any problems, you can troubleshoot those with IT ahead of time. And then you have spring break. And after that, you come back and we work on that project I mentioned in the introduction video. So you will actually be working with a real business owner and performing an external analysis, looking at the internal environment, looking at generic strategy. You'll see what I'll do here is anytime there's a problem or an issue, I change it right away and it's reflected immediately because of the live link in Blackboard. So if I've ever made a mistake, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. I am here to help you. My job is like a coach essentially. And I want you to learn. So if there's a mistake, if something's unclear, please ask. I'm happy to help. That's my job as your instructor in the course. And then what you'll have finally is a final presentation where you explain to me like why what you recommended in the strategic audit makes sense, why it's best for the business owner. It's the same pitch you would give the business owner when you share your recommendation with them. And then you tell me some about what you've learned, and explicit instructions are available. I've provided comprehensive instructions on everything, and there are rubrics attached to all of the parts of the final project as well as the presentation when you submit it in Blackboard. So everything should be really clear there. If it's not, please let me know. And then I'll have the business owner evaluate you, the person you've been working with from the business, evaluate you on a few key items so you have that feedback available to you. And I'll share it. And I think that'll be really important as well. And then that your project is in lieu of a final exam, your presentation takes the place of that final exam. The midterm is really important because it showcases or demonstrates to me that you understand the material before you go out and work with a live business owner. Now, each week you will see linked here. So, like, let's say that we get to week 5, right? And you don't want to scroll all the way to week 5. Each one is linked. So all you have to do is click that. It takes you directly to week 5. It will have the readings I expect you to do in addition to the chapter we're covering that week. I'll post a lecture, in this type of format each week, based on the chapter material. And so you'll be able to watch that lecture. It tells you what needs to be submitted as well. And then there are resources like notes, slides, anything like that that you need. For the textbook material, I do handwritten notes ahead, and I'll also have slides available. And then I'll post a supplementary lecture, oftentimes where maybe I'm working on my whiteboard behind me, and helping walk you through the material so that you can fully understand it. And it will simulate more of like a class environment, like what I would lecture in class, so that you have access to that. So, yeah, each week is linked. When you open up the document, you can go straight to it. You'll see, like, for example, the external environment week, we can go there. Again, looks very similar. Maybe I have a video that's a good resource for you or that sort of thing available. All the pack back things that are due on the course outline that you see, they're all what's called deep linked into Blackboard. So when you go here, like, you can already click on the pack back introduction. It will launch it for you. Oh, the problem is that I'm not logged in as a student to Packback. So when you do that, when you get registered to Packback, you should be able to get access to it. I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm going to discard that, and I'm going to access my own account so that you can see it. So when I go to the Packback introduction, this is what it will do. It will actually launch for you once you've registered, and you'll be able to get in. And then you'll be able to introduce yourself to the class. So you go to the full post, and you will ask a question. You'll be able to do that. It'll give you the option to as a student. Mine looks a little different as an instructor, but you'll be able to post a question. Just post a generic question, like something you would like to know in the course. And then, something you would like answered in the class. Then include the information about yourself in your response. This one does not have to have a certain number of curiosity points because it's just an introduction. When we get to when we get to the weekly posts that are less about like who are you sort of things, then you will. And I'll post some examples so that you can see and make that as clear as possible. And then when you get to the second half, all your project and the project guidelines are already available to you. So take a look at those, see what's involved. I'll also show you how to log into IBIS World, which is a really helpful resource for your external analysis. And then each one of the assignments that you have with working with the business owner and your final page, they're already developed. They each have a rubric, so they're set. But it really is critical that you put as much effort into that assignment. That's why it's the only thing we work on in the second half of the semester. And weekly, you have deliverables that keep you accountable and on target. I know as an online student, I have difficulty like staying up to speed unless there's something that I'm accountable for each week. This will give you the opportunity to do that. And with working with a business owner on your own, then you can set up those meetings. It's expected ahead of time. And so I'll expect you to like identify someone pretty quickly and then get on their calendar to set up a meeting and all that sort of thing. And you'll be able to find like, I'll set reminders on the course outline. Like, so for example, maybe in week 3, you need to submit with me. I'll have you submit to me like who you're working with, and then you need to set up a meeting with them or that sort of thing. So I'll provide reminders for those things, but you also need to go ahead and be like putting things into your calendar so that you can be prepared and working ahead of the game, especially when working with a business owner. Your personal brand and WKU's brand are both sort of out there when you're doing that. And so it's really important that you're putting your best foot forward in those situations. I would encourage you, go ahead and look at the syllabus, make sure you understand everything. If you don't, please post questions. I'll actually also put a discussion board up so that if you have a question that would benefit the rest of the class, like please feel free to post it there. I'll subscribe to it and then I'll provide information that's generally helpful so that you have access to it. And as always, if you have questions, please reach out. I'm here to help. I'll be happy to set up a Zoom. I'll be happy for you to swing by my office if you're on campus, or I can set up a call or that sort of thing. So all my information, how to contact me, all that is available on the syllabus, as well as like what everything is worth and then some just important policies for the course. I do want to share with you that it's really important to me that things are handed in on time. And so I'm going to hold you to deadlines because otherwise it's difficult for me to turn around all the grading that's due in a week if I'm waiting on assignments to come in at odd times. So I'll hold you to the deadlines. If an absolute emergency comes up that's verifiable, then of course I'm going to work with you on that. But if you've had time to work on it, I'm going to expect you to get things in on time, just like your boss would expect you to do things at work. So again, if you have any questions, reach out. I'm here to help, and I'm really excited to work with you this semester.